My bad.
What up?
What up? Was on a call. Or on a call.
All good. You're on.
Sweet.
I went on a little rant before I got here.
Okay, good. You said about some? Where did we put these last time? Was
Just on your collar there.
Here we go. Here we go. All right. What are you ranting about?
No, so
You were pissed.
well, it's just like when you're sitting out there and I'm thinking more of like kind of the primary demographic or the primary businesses that personally too, like a lot of contractors and stuff.
Yeah.
Is a lot of times there are one-stop shops. Some are more with it than others, where they know that they need marketing and everything like that, and so they start looking for it. They find these giant agencies, and these agencies basically explain to them, like, yeah, we can do this, we can do all this for you, we can do advertising, we can do such and such. Let's say they're paying $7,000 a month to do all this all in. Well, their revenue a month right now is, let's say, $50,000 a month. So it's a decent marketing budget. It's a pretty normal marketing budget for their overall business. And when they're asking about performance, these agencies say, well, we can see through your advertising, you got 3 times return. You got a 5 times return on this advertising. And in all of our efforts, we've calculated this much of a return. But at the end of the day, like, did they get that much of a return? Because their business, their revenue only increased, let's say, from 50,000 to 55,000. That's not 5 times return. That's basically a claim that without the agency, they were making 50 grand, and with the agency, 70% of their business is completely reliant on advertising, which we obviously know just isn't the case.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that, like, just really irk me, because these agencies know that a lot of times the small to medium-sized businesses that are coming into their pipeline don't know anything about marketing. And so they're able to just fall back on these in-platform metrics that don't actually mean anything, and the business isn't actually growing. And at the end of the day, and there's some agencies that will hold you to a particular contract, let's say, because they're saying, well, we said that if we were able to get you this much of a return or this much business, that you would continue with this contract with us. And then it ends up really hurting these smaller businesses because they can't get out of a contract and their business isn't growing. So I don't know. That's just the rant. And it's more about just like overall sustainable growth and trying to educate people that what it actually means to gain the system and gain attribution in vanity metrics like clicks and ROAS, return on ad spend, things like that. It just doesn't, it's a new age. People, like, that's just not how advertising works anymore. And the fact that, there's people out there that don't understand that's not how advertising works, they're getting taken advantage of. And so that's the rant.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we both know that there's scammers out there. That is what we have ran into on both ends multiple times, is people that sign up for something for an organization that is not in the area, that has caught them at the right time, and they signed up for a $1,000, $1,200, $3,000 a month bill of some place that can't really be held accountable, and they can kind of show them those vanity metrics, which really don't show up in their sales necessarily, but they can show you this shiny thing like, oh, your website got 300 more clicks this month. Well, that doesn't really mean anything to somebody in construction. That happens a lot. Those are fly-by-night companies, and they prey on people that don't really know what's going on. And we talked about this a little bit last time we did this, which was You have those kind of companies that are kind of, fly by night, kind of, just like cheesy sales advertisement type deal. And then you have the one companies that are actual marketing companies that have advisors and they get to know your business first. This is a good good thing to talk about today because it's kind of fresh on my mind too. But if you're ever doing business with somebody, business to B2B, anything, and they don't try to get to know your business first before they offer anything to you, do not do business with it. That is like the number one thing that I've seen as a red flag is people that just will try to get you to sign up for the top package and you don't even know if the company needs it yet or not.
Right.
And that goes for anything. That goes for from like your SEO to marketing to anything in banking to having your offices cleaned. Like it's literally anything that's B2B. If they don't try to get to know you first and try to fully understand your situation and then come up with a product for you and tell you why it's good, you should run away because they're just trying to sell you something. You might actually need it, you might actually not, but they're not going to be there for you, 3 months down the line when you really need the help. So,
yeah, and the problem is that it's not even just these like fly by night random emails that you receive in your inbox about SEO services or anything. It's even some of the more established agencies. I just think, and like I'm not saying that they're scamming you by any means. I mean I probably in some things I said probably indirectly said that, but that's not exactly what I mean. It's more of they just don't know. Like people who are primarily focused on things like content and social media, email, etc., like they just don't know that that's like, people don't know about cookie deprecation. People don't know that you can't even track 80 to 90% of the entire internet. Like that's all they're trying to do. Like people don't understand that when I retarget users, these are lower funnel users, and a lot of times the people that are running these advertising tactics, they aren't directors of agencies or things like that. These are kind of like fresh out of college individuals that don't know any better, and as long as they hit certain metrics and they keep the clients on, everybody's happy. And the directors aren't paying much attention because business is good and their clients are staying on.
Yeah, sales numbers are up. So what would you say? So let's add some value to what you just said there. So what would you say are some things that companies should focus on when they're working with a marketing company, like numbers wise? What should they be when they ask for the numbers back from the marketing company? What are some things they should ask for, and what are some things they should be looking for when they?
Well, the company owner, director, whoever's kind of like in charge of working with that agency, they need to know their actual company numbers. If you don't know what your current numbers are, you shouldn't start with anybody because you have to have a baseline. And the agency, honestly, they should be asking that as well so that they have a baseline.
Yeah.
Because like a proper agency that you're working with is going to say, listen, we're going to be serving ads, we're going to be hitting particular audiences, but we are trying to get you new users. And if we only target current users, we aren't really providing much value other than trying to help them more through the funnel. But at the end of the day, they've already been introduced to your business. So we need to target new users. The majority of users are on iPhones. Most people have Macs. You can't track attribution on those devices. The only place that you could track attribution is on Chrome. So like even social media marketing, let's talk about that specifically. Facebook has an algorithm to help give attribution. Now they can tell people clicked, they can tell that an impression was served, but after that, they aren't tracking that user on your website to really tell if they converted. They can see the pixel that you implement to track conversions. They can see that pixel's firing, and so they basically say, well, you've spent about this much money, you've had this many conversions, and based on our algorithm that we made up, we got you this many conversions. And at the end of the day, they're just grading their own homework. And it's not to say that that type of marketing is bad. It's good, but you just can't rely solely on those in-platform metrics to drive success.
Yep. And that's why I like what you do. You almost always do a baseline into where they're at right now when you start with somebody, just to kind of let them know. Which I think that speaks to a couple different things. One, you actually know what you're doing. I believe wholeheartedly, and obviously you have customers, so they believe it as well. And then two, it shows that you're honest. Like anybody can come in there and say, oh, I got you 300 more clicks this month, or oh, I got you this, or oh, I got you that. But then for you to be able to say, here's your numbers in June, here's your numbers of me working with you for a month in July, and we haven't even really got it started yet.
Right.
And I changed this, and this, and because I did that, I added backlinks or whatever. Because I did those things, your number has now grown. Now we're in August, and we can see that you have 20% increase in traffic or whatever it is. But you kind of tell them what you're going to be doing, and then you show them the numbers. And then those numbers grow consistently over the time that they work with you. And that helps with people trusting you, I think.
Well, we try to be realistic about numbers. We try to sit there and say, okay, within the first few months, you should expect, let's talk about SEO specifically. Within the first few months, you should expect to see keywords increase. Within the next few months, you should start to see those positions increase and traffic on your site increase. And depending on the product and depending on the service, now we're having a conversation of when should you start seeing sales? Now, let's say you should start seeing more sales coming organically within the first 4 months, within the first 3 months. Whatever that number is, we're going to tell you that in the beginning so that you have a baseline to hold us accountable if that doesn't start to happen.
Exactly.
Now, one thing that we started doing recently is we started running a free 12-month revenue projection. So basically what that is we're saying, based on your current numbers and your current business and increase in what you're doing, this is the projected revenue that you should have within the next 12 months. Now, if you add this in, and if we do what we say, which is we're going to increase these keywords, and these are the keywords that we're going to target. Now, if we can get you into proper positioning on certain keywords, then you can expect this many people to interact with this keyword to be shown in front of this many people. You can expect this many people to click that link, and you should expect this many people to convert based on that click. And then we can say, based on that conversion, here's your average order value, and this is what you should be expecting to have increased in revenue within 12 months. And is that valuable? Is it enough? Some industries, it really doesn't work for them, because it's sometimes industries are so niche that, or so, what's the word I'm looking for? Like certain products, impulsively purchasing. Like if you have a really cool, if you're a really great pen company, let's say, I don't think a massive amount of SEO is really going to help your business that much. You probably just need advertising, and you probably just need just enough advertising to make you a profit and then to have sustainable growth over time. And that's fine. But for a company that has a longer sales cycle, a company that people are looking up more information for before purchasing, now that's when something like SEO or other organic marketing, like content creation, things like that, that's when that really comes into play.
Yeah, I agree. So if you're just talk about roofing companies real quick, because roofing companies are really busy, or they have been really busy because of all the storms. If you're a roofing company right now, you can have all the advertising in the world, and you can have all the SEO, you can have everything. You get people driving to your site so that you show up on Google right away when somebody looks up, roofing company near me, all that good stuff. So you have all that going on for you. If you don't have, if you're, I guess you would say your internal processes aren't set up enough, you don't have enough staff, you don't have all this different stuff, you could have all the marketing in the world, you're not going to be able to facilitate all the new sales or the outreach that you need or anything like that. None of that's going to be available to you, or you're not going to be able to take advantage of it. So there is some of that that's back on the business owner as well. Like the business owner has to be able to facilitate all of these new sales.
Right.
And I think that's something that we've had a conversation with customers before where it's like, hey, this is great. This is going to help you out quite a bit. But I've noticed that you just told me that you guys are backed up right now. So if I start helping you and I start doing my job, we're not going to be able to see that on the back end because you're going to turn people away.
Right.
It's going to be really hard for me to do that. So, they have to have the network inside their business set up already. Processes have to be set up to be able to be expanded and all that good stuff. That's obviously just going to be on your, well, I guess it just wouldn't be on your service-based businesses. It could be on anything. Like let's say if you have a coffee company, for example, if we spike your sales, and you don't have the product, it's all for naught.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually probably going to hurt you.
And
you're going to be like, I tried buying from them before and they weren't ready. But
and that's where just like smart business practices come into play. Now, if you're, let's say, a roofing company, or you are let's go into like general home renovation. I think this applies a little more. Yeah. Like if the quality of your work is good enough, you can increase prices. And I've seen things like that happen to where it's like, okay, we're getting a steady amount of leads, and so we're going to, we've consulted with people before, and we're just like, well, how much is too much? And I've had some business owners that, know their stuff, and they can sit there and say, well, I can't charge over this. And I have other business owners that say, I'll just keep increasing my prices until they say no. And at the end of the day,
right,
like you're going to have a much smaller conversion rate, but you are seeing that revenue on the back end. So there's ways around that without having to, if you aren't trying to hire different teams, because I know a lot of contractors, especially, like they're very nervous about the quality of their product and the quality of their brand, because that's their reputation at the end of the day. So you hire a bad employee or hire a bad team that's doing something wholesale for you, and then that's against your brand. So I understand being able to be, wanting to be productive about that. So we just have to be creative about how we're going to grow that revenue if you're capped and you can't increase the number of total sales that you're making.
Yeah. The best marketing you can have is a good customer experience.
Right.
Because if you go do somebody's roof or you go clean somebody's carpets or whatever it is, and they do something just a little bit extra, that customer is going to tell everybody they know whenever they bring up a new roof or cleaning their carpets or, get their house cleaned or whatever it is, or, good cup of coffee, good writing pen. Mm-hmm. They say, oh, you got to check out this pen. This pen's the best pen I ever had. It's a couple extra dollars more, but I'm going to buy refills on this pen. I'm going to make sure that I keep this pen. And that is the best marketing that you can have. And it is sometimes the cheapest. It's right. Good customer experience. That's it. Make sure as an owner, you got your hands in it and you're making sure that your brand is there. So branding is another big one as well. But just making sure all that stuff's lined out. People will tell everybody. I mean, I've had that happen to me multiple times with a couple different things. Restaurants, for one. If I have good food somewhere, I'm telling everybody at work the next day about it. We're probably going to go back. Just all that good stuff. I'm telling my family about it here, but everybody's going to know about the good meal I just had, or the good experience I had at a restaurant right away. So, and yeah, that's your cheapest form of marketing, I believe.
Right. And, I don't know the exact statistic. These numbers are going to be absolutely wrong, but if you have a good experience with a brand, especially in like the restaurant industry, good experience, good food, good service, the chances of you returning is like 20% if it's your first time in. Now, if you go again and you have a good experience, good food, good service, your chances of returning again is like 45%. And then if you go a third time and you have the exact same great experience, then your chances of returning are somewhere in the 90s of returning again. And I feel like that could, and I would have to look up the stats on that, but I feel like that could be applied to almost any market. Yep. where you could have returning customers, especially for contractors. You do a good job on someone's bathroom, they're going to hire you for their kitchen. You do a good job on their kitchen, they're definitely hiring you for their basement. Like there's so much that goes into that, and there's a big reasoning why, having that good experience and good sustainable growth is going to benefit your business.
Exactly. I think you're talking about the John Taffer thing. He was talking about that on an interview where he was just like, was just making sure that they had a good experience that first time because that upped their chances of coming back. And the second time, making sure that they had another really good experience so that they come back a third time.
Right.
And then after that third time, you have them. They've built it into their either, they made it a point to, hey, we're going to go to X restaurant at least, once a quarter. They may not say that, but, when they ask what they want to eat and they want some, they want, let's just call it Mexican foods. You go to a Mexican spot, it's really good. You go there once, you like it. You go there twice, you like it again. The third time, you're like, as soon as it pops in your head, like, hey man, I could really go for, some enchiladas or whatever. You're thinking in your head, like, oh, I went to that place twice. It was really good. And you're just going to automatically go back there. You're not even going to try anything at that point. You're just going to go back to that restaurant. And that's true with a bunch of other things too. Like you said, contractors, car wash, anything. If the price makes sense and it's easy to get to and the service is good, you're almost always going to come back.
Right. And that's why, like, I guess kind of shifting is like talking about sustainable growth. So you don't want to grow too fast to where you can't handle the business and then people get mad at you to where they don't, you've experienced this where they just don't call you back, or, you're advertising a product that is at a lower pricing tier, but you have so much business that you just kind of blow those leads off because you have more business for the upper pricing tier. Like you don't, for example, a roof versus siding, when everybody needs roofs and sidings, the roofs get prioritized because that's a much higher cost.
Right.
And so there's that for sustainable growth. The second thing is you want to grow to where when you shut off the tap, the leads keep coming in. And now if you are starting from scratch and you're used to, or let's say you aren't starting from scratch, but you're used to advertising all the time and you aren't doing anything else. Well, as soon as you shut off your advertising or lower your spend, your business goes down. Mm-hmm. And why would you be shutting off your advertising or lowering your spend? Well, maybe business wasn't as good and you aren't making as much revenue. So you had to do that so that you could invest in other areas of your business. But then it ends up just compounding on itself. And okay, so now you shut off your advertising to invest in other areas, business is down, more business isn't coming in, and now it's down even more because you shut off your advertising. So now you're in very real trouble from a cash flow perspective on your business. And so being able to do things organically that when you shut them off, or let's say you go down in a pricing tier, your traffic doesn't just tank overnight. Now we have some clients that we've done good SEO work for them, and we've, some of the primary SEO work is that we were making a bunch of content, and that content was ranking, it was driving in a lot of traffic, and they were getting a lot of business. But the next month they say, well, hey, we want a website, we want a new website, we want to refresh, but we don't want to spend any more money. And it's like, okay, well, that's fine. We can do that, but we aren't going to write the content. We're going to build the website. Well, when we shut off content writing for that month, guess what happens? They still have business coming in. Their traffic is still growing because of the content that we added. And it's, we shut off the content tap and it didn't affect their business. It didn't affect their business at all. Now, if they do that for too long, you might start to see some effects, but they have the ability to focus on other areas of their business without completely, hurting themselves from a cash flow perspective because they need to invest in other areas.
Yeah. It's all about moving your money around, man. That's kind of the hard part about being a business owner. It's where to invest, and it could be scary, obviously, right? I mean, you're not only providing for yourselves, but sometimes you're providing jobs for, people as well. So, I mean, you're sitting at the top trying to figure out, where do I want to allocate this money? How do I allocate this money and grow and everything like that? And it always comes back to having a good circle of people around you, a good circle of advisors that, will tell you exactly what you need to do or give you some really good input. compared to somebody that really doesn't care, is just trying to get make a buck off you.
Right. Yeah, I just don't. I guess that's like the whole purpose of that part of the conversation is just like the job that your agency should have or your consultant should have is to educate you on how things work and not just say, give us money and we'll make it work. Now, if that's all you have time to do, that's fine. If you just say, hey, as long as it's working, I'll keep giving you money, like that's fantastic. You should do that if that's all you have time for. But you should also know just enough to where if it's not working, you're able to identify it, like, or if you feel like it's not working or you feel uneasy about the product that you're getting, that you can actually like research a little bit enough to ask the right questions to your agency and make sure that they are giving good answers to what you're asking.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the trick, right? We were talking about at the very beginning, which is like who to trust and what makes a good, what are some red flags that you could see in a marketing agency or really any other B2B company. And it's the fact, do they care enough to get to know you first, so that they can make a long lasting relationship and they're not just trying to get some money out of you for a few months and then leave. You want a good, strong relationship. And I you know what? I've never seen a company that tries to get to know you first before trying to sell you anything that doesn't know what they're doing. Typically, that takes a lot of confidence to sit down with somebody and ask them a bunch of questions about their business. This goes for personal too. I mean, this could go for literally anything in your life. Just a minute to sit down and get to know you first. How can they make good recommendations for you or your business? And it just takes some confidence out of the other party to be able to ask those questions and answer those questions on their feet, and then be able to turn around and give you a good solution and tell you why that solution is the best one for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess like being able, and not everybody's going to do this. And I think this is what kind of why some people stand out over others is they don't try to gatekeep the knowledge that they have.
Right.
They might gatekeep processes, and that's completely fine. But gatekeeping the knowledge is what I think is a little bit of a red flag as well, even if they do really good work, because we run our business to put ourselves out of business, and that's kind of always been our thing. Like if you want to hire us to consult, but you want to do it yourself, then we're more than happy to consult. We'll point you in the right direction. We'll tell you what you need to do, and we'll just move from there. But if you want us to do everything, then we'll do everything. But let's say you hire someone internally and you're like, hey, they're going to be doing this, and that, and it's going to be a little bit cheaper for me to do that. I'm going to have someone on it. Okay, cool. We'll teach them how to do it. Because at the end of the day, if you can see sustainable growth, you love the fact that we taught the person that you hired internally what we're doing so that they can replicate it on their end. Well, okay, we lose you as a client, but we get you as a referral now. We get you as a good review, and now you're referring us to 3 or 4 other people who we're going to do the exact same thing for. And so the fact that we're doing that for you, you're referring us, we're actually making more money in the long run, because now we have 3 new clients that you sent over to us because you love the fact, you love the work that we did. And I think everybody should really operate that way. Like you could have a client on for, $1,000 to $5,000 a month, wherever they're landing. And if they can refer you 3 other clients that are the exact same thing, like that's fantastic.
Exactly. But if you're on the other end of that, if your pricing is good and that business owner knows if I can pay Mike X amount of dollars a month and get exactly done what I need to get done and not have to worry about hiring somebody or making sure that I have an internal employee, any of that stuff, the ROI on just paying Mike to do it is better than me trying to hire somebody and get somebody in here to do it.
100%.
So again, though, that just speaks back to, being confident in what your business can provide as a marketing company to another business. If you're confident in that, then they're not going to want to get rid of you because they feel like they're getting a deal because you're doing a really good job at a price you guys both agreed on, and they're getting the sales they said they thought they were going to get, or their brand is looking the way that they wanted their brand to look, or whatever was the reason for reaching out to you, or their website looked exactly how they wanted to look, and it's working the exact way, the user experience is where it needs to be, or whatever it is. They feel like they're getting a good deal. They're paying the price they think they should pay for the service that they're getting.
Right.
And that is huge in any business at any given time. It's always going to be the way. If people feel like they're getting a deal, they're paying exactly what they think it should be, then they're good. I mean, we've all bought, when you go buy something, and being like, oh my God, I didn't realize that was going to be that much. And then you feel like, well, I really shouldn't buy this then now, or I shouldn't, they're actually asking more and they haven't given anything back yet, or I haven't seen anything, I haven't seen any growth, I haven't seen any, whatever it is. Then yeah, I mean, you're not gonna continue to do business with that company, because you don't feel like the price is right.
Right. Do you want water?
Yeah.
You get dry mouth when I talk too much.
Oh my God. Let's talk all day, man.
Yeah, and so a really good example of that I have. So I hired an operations company recently, and when originally they were selling me, I don't trust anybody at all. I just, especially like these younger people that are out there building businesses, I'm just like, oh yeah, here we go.
Whippersnappers.
Right. But they didn't, and they're like the same age as me.
Yeah, right.
But they didn't pressure me into a sale. And in fact, at the end, so what they did, they provided a lot of value throughout the sales process. They had a few calls with me. They talked about my business. They got to know my business. They made some recommendations that, they're like, hey, if you just want to take this and move forward, like, good luck. Sure. We just know we do it better. And it's like, yeah, well, one, for me, I don't have time to do this. So fantastic. Yeah, sure. But the other thing that actually really convinced me is they had 3 package tiers. And 2 of the packages were like consulting, where basically they would send you content and kind of coursework to work on so you could learn some stuff. And then they would also they would have video calls with you, like a certain amount of video calls with you every single month, just to basically, like, as you're going through the process and their process, see how you're doing and if they can make any recommendations. But you're doing all the work. They're just consulting on it. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, well, okay, well, if I want you to do everything, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, that looks like this, and we'll set up everything for you. We'll still have calls, but like, our goal is to not have calls with you, because obviously you're hiring us to do all the work for you. We don't also want to be taking up your time with a bunch of calls. And they're like, but if we have questions or need to know your business a little bit better, we're going to have a call, because we don't want to just like put something out there that doesn't make sense for your business. And I was like, that's what I want.
I love that.
I want that right there. And the thing is, and they were surprised. They're like, oh, really? And I was like, yes. And they were surprised by it, because they tried to sell me on the lower packages. They tried to undersell me, which maybe that's a sales tactic. I don't know. I've never seen that when I've been sold to before. And if anything, that made me trust them more, because they're like, hey, we have a lot of really good ideas, and so you're going to benefit from this. And I was like, no, I want your ideas and I want you to do the work. And it's one of those things where it's going to hurt a little bit, like, it's kind of one of those price points, but it's not going to hurt enough to where like my business is going to go under overnight. And I think that's just like, that was just a really cool way to do it. Like, that's a good way to run business. Yeah. Is they aren't trying to oversell you, but yeah, you have the ability to do everything if you absolutely want to. And my plan is to never go down a tier. If it's working and they're doing everything for me, why would I ever go down a tier? Because they're doing it all.
Right. You could think of it as almost like a piece of equipment. You buy it, it does what it's supposed to do. Why would you ever return the piece of equipment? You just keep it.
Right.
I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to do anything else or do it any other way.
Exactly. I make one sale and it pays for itself. So I mean, that seems worth it to me. Now, I do get a little iffy about places where the price points as such to where if you have to make 2 or 3 sales for it to pay for itself. And then now we're in this like situation of, we have to make sales, and I don't want to be desperate on a sales call. I want the price point to be, and this is where I try to price things as well. You just want it to be to the point to where if they don't make sales within the first month, because they won't, no one ever does with certain tactics. If you don't make sales within the first month, you aren't nervous. You aren't sitting there thinking about canceling and cutting your losses because, you want your price point to be as like a service base or a SaaS company. You want your price point to be such to where you give yourself as an agency, give yourself as a business enough room to be able to do what you do properly and not have to rush things, which ultimately is going to end badly. Like you don't want to have to rush things. And you want the ability to do it properly. And unfortunately, to do things properly, especially, even in advertising, to do things properly, the person's not going to see results in the first month. It's just not going to happen.
Right. It does take a little bit of a relationship. And I kind of understand why sometimes these businesses will show flashy numbers because they need something to show the customer, because it is hard in advertising that you get numbers to pop right away.
Right.
The ones that actually, result in sales, it's hard to get them to pop right away. They can, especially if you're dealing with like a product, if you're selling a thing, but yeah, you can get it to pop then, but I don't know, other than that, you deal with the service, it's kind of hard.
Camera ISO is like freaking out right now.
There we go. We're back.
Yeah, that's why a lot of companies just end up sitting there and trying to push bottom funnel, because you do see results right away. You have a certain metric that you're trying to hit, and in general, it's some months are good, some months are bad, but as long as you see sustainable growth, you should be able to hit those metrics. And when the expectation on the client is that you're going to hit those metrics immediately, then you're always going to set yourself up for failure.
Right. It's hard. It's hard to make those numbers immediately. We both know that. That's why you show the flashy numbers first. So,
right. You have to do things. You have to do things right. And I don't know. So I guess what have you dealt with recently that kind of maybe goes with this conversation? Either on like with the bank, like managing expectations, or someone getting mad because they just didn't quite understand the process, even though the process was exactly how it's supposed to go.
Yeah. So, yeah, working at a bank is, people don't trust you. Usually, that's like the instant feedback we always get is.
Sorry, a recording stopped.
Oh no!
Restart that.
Yeah. So we're talking about. You can probably just cut this back together, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'll just start over from where I was talking about before. So, managing objections or expectations, objections, things like that about banks. They really get a bad rap with. Just people assume that banks should be able to do everything for free, and that they're not for profit. They're a not-for-profit business, and that's not true. Obviously, banks need to make money somewhere. And, obviously the arbitrage on your money, of us having the money and then lending it out for more and paying out less in interest. That's the old adage, but, there's more money needed there to run the bank. So being upfront about those fees, especially with business customers, is probably the best way to combat that. Just so they know when they sign up. When they sign up for the account, they get all their things set up, and it's this big, long process of getting your online banking set up. All of your bills coming out of your account. You have your 2 accounts, let's say, line of credit cards, all that stuff set up. All the people that are on the accounts need to be put on the accounts. The worst thing that can happen is 2 months in, they're hit with this fee that they didn't know was going to be there. It doesn't even have to be huge. And they felt like they got duped at account opening, and you don't want that. So you want to be as upfront as possible. And that bleeds over into everything else you do too as a business, right? I mean, like for you, telling people right off the bat, like, hey, we're going to get to know your business a little bit. But just to let you know, you're probably not going to see any growth here in the first 4 months. So that on month 2, they're not like, hey, Mike, where the hell's my growth? And you're like, well, remember we talked about it 4 months. But I have been in constant communication with you at all times and everything like that. So, it's the same way at the bank, man. You just got to be really, really upfront with people about the fees. Really, really upfront about what the bank can do and what it can't do. And I think that's pretty much true for anything. But like right now is a weird time in the bank. It has been over the past, because there's all the uncertainty going on with, with the United States and other countries and tariffs, and we're getting rid of the penny. Penny's not going to be a thing anymore.
Oh, no.
And people are absolutely losing their mind over that because they just love pennies so much. And
Well, it just means
times they are changing.
Well,
and that freaks people out, and that's okay.
I think it just means that, prices are going to increase.
Yes.
Because instead of something being $4.99, now it's not going to go down to $4.95. No, it's going to go up to
right.
$5.04.
Yep. And they're going to, and it kind of boils down to also, it just doesn't really make, that's like kind of like a dad joke. It really doesn't make sense to keep making the penny. There we go. But because it costs quite a bit more to make a penny than it does.
Costs 2 cents.
Costs 2 cents to make it, but like $1.90, or it's a penny 97 or something like that to get it. So it's almost a full 2 cents higher. So, or it's almost a whole cent higher to make one than it is to have the penny itself. So, and that just freaks people out. So I think just being knowledgeable and being upfront about changes and things that go on, is, my number one thing to do.
What would you say, because I've always had this question, I kind of have an idea, and I'll let you know my thoughts, but what would you say the difference between a traditional bank and a credit union are?
Just out of sheer convenience for you, a bank is probably going to be better because you're typically, most banks you deal with, your big ones, are going to be in multiple states. If we're talking about just from the outside looking in, you're going to be a little bit more convenient. Typically, banks tend to be a little bit bigger, so online banking, things like that, are going to be a little bit easier to deal with a bank. With a credit union, I would say some pros for their interest rates are typically higher on return and lower for loans. So I know, especially in the St. Louis market, a lot of the credit unions have, they have like personal loans, and the personal loan rates are extremely good. But you have to be a member there to have one. So it's kind of like a membership type deal with them. Those are the two biggest differences for like a consumer and or a business coming in, without getting into funding and things like that. Those are the two biggest differences.
So I think the thing that I've always noticed between a traditional bank and a credit union is that when I need cash, I can't always, like for my business,
yep,
I have an easier time getting it from a bank than I do a credit union. Why is that?
That might be a little bit too about the size of the place, the size of the institution. Banks, a little bit inside baseball, banks have to pay, and I believe this is the same for credit unions as well, but we have to pay for insurance on the money that's at our bank, like the actual physical cash that's there. And we can only have so much up to a certain amount. And then once we get over that certain amount, the price doubles and or triples for the insurance. So it costs us money to have money in there. That's just a straight up business standpoint. The president doesn't call us every day and say, hey, we can't give people any more cash today. None of that really, I mean, we have people that say that kind of stuff all the time to me. And it's, you don't want to give me my money because, the government doesn't want me to have money. It's none of that. It breaks down to the simple fact of it's dangerous to have a lot of money in one place.
Right.
If we had millions of dollars sitting inside of the bank, it would be a very dangerous thing. And, people would try to get that money. As far as like the credit unions not having in there, they're typically at smaller locations too. And I know that when, a normal size bank, let's just call it like a middle market bank, they have a little bit of a bigger vault, bigger area, bigger everything, and it just helps them get a little bit more cash on hand.
Would you recommend a business, like do credit unions even do business accounts, or they do?
Yeah.
So would you recommend a business do the traditional banking route, or what is, I guess, I know you work for a bank, and so you probably contractually have to be biased to some extent. But why would a business ever use a credit union?
For rates, like
Purely for rates?
yeah,
As a business, like I've never found value in a credit union over a traditional bank. I can have all my accounts in a traditional bank. I can get loans through a traditional bank. And at the end of the day, like the rate, I don't know, for most business owners, like if you have someone separate that's managing your money, that's doing a lot of the operations, and that's their job, or an accountant that you have on staff, like, okay, maybe go to the place that has the best rate. But for a pure convenience standpoint, like I'll take a percentage higher just to have everything in one spot.
yeah. I mean, if you're looking at a larger size bank, so the top 5 or 6 banks in the United States, even I would say maybe like close to 12 largest banks in the United States, you are going to get a full team of people that are able to help you at any given time. 24 hours, they're going to be open. You're going to be able to call. You're going to be able to ask questions on your accounts. You're going to probably get answers immediately. You have a person in most instances where you have a dedicated business banker to you. That business banker also loops you over to like the branch manager. And so you have a couple faces to deal with there. It's just banks are typically bigger and they have more manpower. And that's typically why, a bank's going to be a little bit easier to deal with as far as like a business standpoint. The only thing I can really think of for a credit union, and I say rates, but that is also kind of iffy with business loans because, if you're going to the SBA, the rate is the rate. It just depends on the situation, I would say. But if you have a business and you're looking for convenience, I would say a bank's probably the best route.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I guess, because it looks like we're going to run out of battery here. What's just some general advice, could be banking specific or just business specific, but like what is some general advice that you haven't already given that you would give to a small to medium-sized business owner?
Yeah. Have your accounts separated. So, and this seems like a no-brainer to most people, but like don't put all your money in your personal account. We have that happen quite a bit. Especially with like lower, like businesses that are just starting out. Maybe they're just starting to get it. Maybe they just quit like their regular job, right? And they've started painting on their own full time. Go ahead and bite the bullet, pay the $300-$400, whatever it is, to get an LLC and start your own business and put the money in that account. Make sure you have a couple of accounts to put, your taxes into so that there's no surprises at the end of the year. Get an idea of how many taxes or how much the taxes you're gonna have to pay, what a write-off is. Get some like general knowledge about running a business, as far as you don't necessarily have to go to a CPA, but get some general idea of what your finances should look like that way.
Yeah.
Second thing is to get a business credit card as soon as possible, and use that for everything that you spend money on the business for. So like gas, lunch, supplies. Anything you can think of for the business, put it on that card and then immediately pay it off. A couple different reasons on there. One, when you go to the end of the year and you look at your expenses part of your taxes, you have an in-depth, detailed list.
It's a lot easier
of what you spent money on that year, and you get paid for doing that because you get cash back for doing it.
Right.
Some banks don't even report that to taxes, so it's just free money that you get back. So that would be number 1 and number 2. And then number 3 is to have a very clear understanding of who does what in your business and who has access to the accounts. So we have a lot of husband runs the contracting business, wife does the books, but wife's not on the account. That makes no sense at all.
Right.
She should be on the accounts. And she doesn't have to be on the accounts as an owner. I know some people get weird about that. She can be on there as just, like a signer. I'm not sure what all the other banks call it, but it's pretty much just like a signer. She can go in there, she can sign checks, She can ask questions about the account, but she can't make any changes. And that's one. That's two.
Seems normal.
Yeah. If you have a manager that you trust or a manager that does most of the operating, throw them on there as well. Get them a credit card. Just those types of things. It's weird because as Americans, we typically, especially if you don't go through college for it, you don't really get a lot of insight into finances.
No.
And it's strange because I'll have somebody that comes in there, and I think I said this on the last one we shot, best plumber in the area, but knows nothing about finances.
Well, we grew up in a generation where we don't talk about money.
Yeah.
It's like,
Crazy.
how do you not talk about money and then expect people to learn how to use money?
Right.
Like you don't sit there and say, I heard someone give an example the other day. I forget who it was. You don't sit there and say, shit, it's out. Hey, camera, lost battery.
Yeah.
And I think a little bit of that was I spent 25 minutes on the drive to meet Josh here.
Yeah.
On an original rant. I thought the battery lasted longer, but oh well. So battery's down, but we were kind of closing out the podcast anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if you talk about banking long enough, stuff starts going to sleep. That's kind of the rule, and I put the camera to sleep, so
Yeah.
I bet.
It's all right. But so thanks. Another episode of The Business Lane with Mike and Josh. Tune in next time for whatever the heck we want to talk about.
Yeah, see ya.